How you doing? I'm Kevin O'Hara for habitsunplugged.com. Today I wanted to talk about being the change that you want to see in the world. There's a lot of stuff in the world which, to be frank, is quite shitty. You know, there's a lot of changes that need to be happening in the world. But change on a massive global scale is rare. I think change mostly happens when it happens at the grassroots levels, when it happens on the individual level, you know. When a lot of people start adopting a new idea or a new way of doing things, a new way of thinking about things, and they adapt it into their lives, and then they in turn cause other people to adapt it into their lives, and it sort of gains momentum and gets a following, and a lot more people do it, and then you see bigger changes happening, you know. And often that's down to one or two individual people, you know, and it can be traced back to one or two individual people. Oftentimes it's not that case, it's just a general trend where people are generally sick of doing something in one way, and they try and do it in something in another way, you know. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But for me, I'm all about self-directed change. I'm all about trying to think of ways that I can look at my life, how I can improve my life. And I'm not just talking about in the sense of health or wealth or, you know, trying to eat the best food that you can. That comes into it. But it's more of a way of looking at it from a perspective of personal evolution, right? I want to be the best person that I can be, right? I want to live a quality life, right? Not just a quantity life. I want to live a quality life. I want to be able to, you know, go from here on and not look at my life like it's a ticking clock, right? Or a ticking time bomb ready to explode at the end of it, you know? And that it's, you know, I'm basically just going down and down and downhill until I get to the day that I die. I don't want to look at my life like that. I want to look at it from the perspective of growth, that I think that you can grow. You know, there's certain parts of you that are going to disintegrate. You know, it's just as time goes on, it's just that's the fact of life, you know. Things get old, things change, and you are changing from one thing to another. But I think, you know, from the perspective of you can take a lot of what you know, the knowledge that you've got now, the skills that you're building, and you can use those skills in different ways as you get older, you know. I don't think that you have to get decrepit. You know, I think you can extend your life now a lot longer than we've previously thought, you know. I think getting into your hundreds is perfectly possible by looking after yourself, not only looking after yourself physically, but looking after your brain and keeping your brain active, and you know, learning new things as you're growing older, learning to adapt to new situations as you grow older, that kind of thing, you know. I think the changes that we see in ourselves, we change in general. We change in relation to what we see in the world. The world is always changing, right? The environment is always changing. People around us change. And we change on both the physical level, we change on a mental level, and we change on an emotional level as well. And, you know, part of that change is adaptation. You know, it's we're adapting to getting older. We're adapting to those type of changes. We're adapting to the changes that we see around us. But there's an awful lot more that we can do to self-direct those changes, you know, to push those changes in the direction that we want them to go. You know, one of the things about change that a lot of people find difficult is that they wished they had done it before, you know. They wished that they had made these changes 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But you can't do that. You can't either make the changes physically, it's impossible. You can't go back in time, you know. You can't get a time machine. You can't go back and do the changes that you thought you should have been doing. The only thing that you can do is change the way you think about it. Now, you can spend your time regretting that you didn't make the changes, or you can spend your time making the changes now, you know. You know, there's so many excuses that you can make as well for the reasons why you didn't do things in the past, and that's all well and good. But the problem and the difficulty with making excuses is that oftentimes it's easy to, once you accept an excuse for why you didn't do something in the past, it's often easy to sort of repeat that excuse, you know, and go, well, I have an excuse for not doing this today. It's because of this or X or Y, whatever, you know. so many, when I look back at my own past, I think it's good to sort of look back at your own past and try and learn as much as you can from it. When I look back at my own past and I think, well, all those years I smoked, all those years that I drank, all those years that I just ate crappy foods and stuff, and where would I be now if I hadn't have done that, right? Well, from a different frame, I can look back at my past and I can think, I stopped smoking, I stopped drinking, and because I did those two things, all these other things started to uncover themselves. A lot of other behaviours that were underneath started to show themselves, and I became aware of other areas of my life that I could change and I could improve. And it also gave me ideas about other areas of my life that I wanted to do, So, there is no such thing as a behavioural gap. You can't, a behavioural vacuum, you can't leave a vacuum where a behaviour used to be. You've got to fill it with something else. So it's your decision, it's your choice, and it's your opportunity to sort of think about what you want to fill those gaps with, right? So you get rid of a bad habit, smoking, drinking, eating, fast foods, not getting exercise, that kind of thing. And what are you going to replace it with? I mean, some of it's obvious, right? Not getting enough exercise, you replace it with exercise, right? But exercise is such a generalized word, and it's such a word that is full of people look at it and go, oh, exercise, that's difficult, But it shouldn't be that way, because exercise at the end of the day is just moving. It's just getting a sweat up. It's moving around and doing things. But there has to be an aspect of enjoying yourself. If you're not enjoying yourself doing it, A, you're not going to want to do it, right? And B, I don't think you're going to get as much of a benefit from doing it if you don't enjoy doing it, right? So you've got to enjoy doing it. You've got to build up a sweat. You've got to get out there and get yourself moving. And once you do get yourself moving, it builds up. It's like a vicious, it's like a virtuous cycle, not a vicious cycle. The opposite of a vicious cycle, a virtuous cycle. So you stop doing something and you eat good food. So you start eating good food, you start eating good nutrition, which gives you more energy to get up and do things. You get up and start doing things, and it gives you more energy in the long run. It gives you more oxygen going into your blood, more oxygen goes to your brain. The better nutrition you're getting as well, the better food you're getting for your brain. So you start thinking better thoughts. You can think about ways that you're going to improve your life further. And it's this round circle of just improvement. One thing leads to another. You get good nutrition, get out and get good exercise. You start thinking better. You have more energy to get out and get more exercise. You want to eat better food because it makes you feel better. You feel better, so you start thinking better, and blah blah, on and on it goes. Part of the reason why a lot of people don't change is because they say, well, that thing there, what you're telling me to do, that's just not me, right? That's just not me. I don't do that. I don't exercise, right? I don't do that kind of exercise, And fair enough, there's some validity to some of that stuff. But in other times, it's just because people don't think that they get caught up in an idea of who they are, right, as a person. They get caught up of this core ideal of who they think they are, and most of the time it's bullshit. I mean, who they think, the person they think they are, is not who they really are at all. A lot of the time, people are just talking themselves into the idea of that person that they think they are. But when reality is challenged, when their reality is challenged, it's not really real at all. It's something false. It's something that they say that it's the ideal person that they want to do, but they want to be, but it's not that person that is coming out. It's not the person that they're actually living. And another aspect to this is that every 7 years you're a different person anyway. Every cell in your body has probably changed by 7 years. So who you were 7 years ago physically is completely different to who you are now, including your brain. So the only thing that's there that was still there 7 years ago is probably your thoughts and your memories, and even those to a certain degree are fabricated. That what we remember now is probably not really what really happened. Our memories of things, we sort of embellish them as we get older. We embellish them as the years go on, I should say. You know, we add to them or we take away from them. We forget some things and we remember some things that really didn't happen, you know. But, you know, that's part of life. I mean, I think that's a nice part of life, you know. Memory is just, it just proves that, you know, you can make with your life what you want to make out of your life, you know. You can make out your past what you want to make out your past. It's the only way you can truly change your past is how you view it. I'm not saying to you that you have to lie about your past, right? But you can always look at it from a different perspective, you know. You can, you know, there's a positive and a negative way. There's a million positive ways of looking at something, a million negative ways of looking at something. So why choose a negative way of looking at something? You're always much better off to focus on things from a positive point of view. So, you know, I started off this video talking about that you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. You know, it's the only real, true impact that you can make on the world is to change yourself. It's very, very difficult to try and change other people because they have their own way of doing things. They have their own pictures of the world. They have their own way of seeing the world, their own frame by which they see the world, their own perspectives. They have their own ideas of what's right and wrong for the world, what's right and wrong for them personally. And it's very difficult for you to sort of lever apart those ideas and put in your ideas, right? What's a lot easier for you to do if you want to try and change other people is to first change yourself, right? So you change yourself, you change the way you're doing things. You know, I talk about this on Alcohol Mastery a lot, that if you really want to change somebody else's drinking, if you think somebody else is drinking a lot or drinking too much, then one of the first ways that you can do it yourself is to stop drinking yourself, you know. That, you know, if you're asking somebody else to do something that you're doing yourself, how can you, you know, it's just, doesn't sound right, you know, it doesn't set right. But if you stop drinking and you show the benefits of stopping drinking, show the benefits of not putting this toxin into your body anymore, then other people are much more likely to follow you, right? If they want. And, you know, if they don't want, they don't want, you know. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the only person that you're really and truly in control of is yourself. The only person who you can properly change is yourself. Right? You are the one that makes the decisions, right? Whether to do something or not to do something. You know, if you decide that you don't want to quit smoking or you don't want to quit drinking or you don't want to quit eating junk food, then that's a choice, right? It's your choice to do that, right? If you choose to get these things out of your life and to put something better in its place, then that's also your choice. But it is your choice, it's your decision. You know, when somebody says, well, yeah, it's not my choice because I'm addicted, right? I'm addicted to smoking cigarettes. And, you know, every single cigarette that you ever take out of the packet and put into your mouth and light, right? Every puff that you take and you inhale the cigarette smoke into your lungs, that's your choice. You know, it might be you have an overwhelming sort of a longing to do it. You know, there's a feeling that you need to do it. You need to have this instant gratification, but there's nothing forcing you to do it. I mean, it's just between you and a bit of dried up weed rolled up in a bit of paper with a bit of sponge at the end of it. You know, and you have to physically take out the thing, light it, and smoke it in order for the smoke to get into your lungs. If you don't do this, the cigarette habit will die on its own. You know, there's nothing more has to be done for it, you know. If you don't feed the habit, it will die. That's the same with the drinking habit, it's the same with the drug habit, the same with habit if you're eating 4 cheese pizzas. It's the same thing, right? You are in control, right? Nothing else is in control. There's nothing there that can, in a packet of cigarettes or in a bottle of alcohol or in a 4 cheese pizza, that is going to jump up and push itself into your body without your consent. You have to physically do this. So each and every time that you do this is your choice. So I'm going to leave it there. Remember that to get a change in the world, you have to first change yourself, right? And let yourself be the change that you want to see in the world. I'm Kevin O'Hara for habitsunplugged.com. Remember that all habits change through persistence, right? All habits build through persistence, right? If you want to break a habit, you have to persist, right? If you want to build a habit, you have to persist. And habits are built by repetition, same thing over and over and over and over again. So it's persistence that does the job. Take care of yourself. Bye now.